HR tech, work tech, and investment are transforming the future of work. Are you in the know? Welcome to the Work Tech Podcast. Join host George Laroque for expert insights on the trends, M&A activity, and strategies shaping the workplace. Brought to you by oneworktech.com and the Work Defined Podcast Network.
Everybody, welcome back to Work Tech. I'm George Laroque, and we've got some industry deal news. French tech provider Blify recently just announced a round of 1.8 million euros. That's a little over 2 million US for anyone who needs to convert. Blify embeds learning directly into Slack, Teams, or WhatsApp, so it's right in the flow of work through an AI-powered learning operating system. And Clément, one of the co-founders, is here to tell us about Blify and the deal. Welcome.
Hi, George. Nice to meet you, and thanks for having me on your podcast.
Yeah, no, it's great to have you here. I love talking to founders, and the whole work tech community is very focused on emerging HR tech and work tech. So I'm excited for this conversation. I wanted to start before we get into the deal and the product with you. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background as well as a little elevator intro of Blify?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Clément, and with my co-founders, we've created Blify. Blify, you say it the way we want. And we're actually on a mission to help companies move past the traditional corporate LMS, and instead of forcing employees to log into some separate platform, separate app, we want to bring training directly to them. So we turn to the tools, like you said, Slack, Microsoft Teams, WhatsApp, and we are working on browser extension to bring learning even in business tools. We are turning those tools into intelligent learning platform. So that's for Blify. And so we have a team of 3 co-founders. We're based in Paris, in Station F. And I start with my background. So I'm Clément, the co-CEO and co-founder of Blify. I know the legacy LMS quite well because I used to be the CMO at 360 Learning, where I have helped the company drive growth across Europe and the US. And I also spent time as CMO for a specialized tech startup called Santé Academy, so in the health industry. And I also co-founded a sport tech startup called Helloways. But my real obsession is how people learn. I actually wrote 10 years ago on MOOC, so it's a past hype on MOOC. And I also published a report on AI and L&D a year ago. So that's for me. My co-founder and co-CEO, Tristan. Tristan brings a deep fluency in HR and enterprise go-to-market. He spent a decade at Job Teaser as a chief sales officer. He scaled the sales organization from 10% to 100%. And he knows the problem from the inside because he is also a managed trainer who even authored a book on management. So he knows exactly how hard it is to actually change behaviors in an organization and level up teams at scale. So that's for Tristan. And last but not least, he's our CTO, Mintu, who is an absolute AI powerhouse. He studied AI at the École Normale Supérieure in France and applied mathematics at the Imperial College. And before Blify, he was one of the early engineers at Alan, one of the fresh unicorn in the health industry. And he actually led the AI initiatives over there, and including Dr. AI, which is like a medical assistant that they unveiled at the AI Summit last year. We bring, I think, to the market a great team to change how people learn, and that we wanted to create when we started Blify. We wanted to have the best team, and today we have also 2 software engineers with us building the product.
Great. I've noticed we track all of the global capital flowing into the HR tech and the work tech space, and over the last 5 or 6 years, I've noticed a lot of startups in HR tech in France, and that seems to be driven by a lot of the investment made by the government in investing in tech and creating that type of environment. And I had seen, I'm familiar with 360 Learning, so it's interesting when I see a team that has founders who have come that are operators from the space who are also, domain experts, in this case with learning, that side of HR and work tech, as well as AI, the technology. It's interesting to see this sort of this macro transition that you represent, emergence of French startups in the space, but also just on your own, that team profile. Usually, we see a lot of learning or HR experts who come to the market without they're not operators. They haven't launched a business or scaled. You've all done that. So it's a very interesting mix. So at an early stage, team is a big part of the investment. I can see why your investors I'm sure that was a big check mark along the way. So being in the flow of work is something that we talk about a lot, but what are some other differentiators for Blify? I apologize. I put a lot of effort into your name, but I didn't think about the company name. But what are some of those your differentiators that you have or that you're working on for Blify?
Yes, thanks for this question. I think there is two main differentiators, and the first one, and I just come back to it because it's really important. It's really pushing learning and assisting employees where they are. I mean, on tool they use every day. They check every 5 to 7 minutes. I mean, data from Microsoft Teams say that every employee checks Teams every 5 minutes. So it's just huge. So we wanted to bring learning in those tools, and this is the first thing. And when you look at legacy LMS or legacy LXP, they just try to bring users back to the LMS using messaging tools. Sometimes they use notifications on those messaging tools, but they don't really embed learning in it. This is the first thing. And the second one is we are using AI to truly individualize learning. I mean, we use different layers of context. We use the company context, we use the group context of the user, we use the user context, what is his job, what is his daily challenges, to craft the perfect piece of content, learning content for the user. And it's a real differentiator, because in LMS and LXP, it's all about, George Berzin, another analyst, says it's all about a publishing model. Create, library, it's static, it's generic, it's linear content, and we hope people will consume it. But what we see in data is that on non-mandatory courses, it's about 10% or 50% monthly engagement rate, whereas on Blify, we are seeing 50 weekly engagement rate. So it's nothing to compare.
That's really interesting. When I think of learning, there's so much to cover there. There's the compliance type learning that is a requirement. There is a sort of skills to, move you along in your progression. And then there's more, just in time sort of, things are happening with a role or in the business, in the field, on somebody's desk, what have you, behind a cash register that, needs to be updated. What's I guess maybe thinking about, your content as it relates also to the customers that you're targeting. What kind of learning are you focused on?
We were focused on one specific use case. It was management and leadership training. But today we can address all kind of L&D use cases. It could be, sales enablement and customer facing, for example. It could be employee onboarding. It could be, of course, leadership training. It could be compliance training, like you said. It could be a strategical internal knowledge. When people go to retirement, you need to keep the knowledge inside the company, and people need tools to create this content and spread it across the company. It could be frontline training, and today also it could be AI training. How do you put AI in processes? How do we take some AI tools and bring it in the company? So we try to address all internal training cases, and we just create the enablement tool for that. I mean, to create in the flow of work learning, to deliver this learning in tool they use every day, and to manage, all the digital training strategy.
It's so exciting listening to you talk about what you're focused on, and this is such an exciting time. We've had, you've just described what would normally in the past or even currently be covered by 2 or 3 different systems, and what has been aspirational, and this is happening across the market. What was aspirational before is now possible based on, the AI and the sort of emergence of this foundational shift that's happening in the space. But okay, so I don't want to bury the lead, as they say. So you announced this deal. Let's talk about the deal and the timing. 1.8 million euros. Congratulations again. We've talked a lot about how you're differentiating. So obviously you're seizing an opportunity to improve the current state of learning. But what about the timing in the business and in the market? I know you're launching. So from a timing perspective, as an early stage startup, you need some fuel. But what does that look like, or what did that look like as you decided to raise now? Why now, versus waiting as a founder?
Well, that's a great question. As you say, it's 1.8 million, but it's a pre-seed round. We are at the very beginning of the adventure. Today, we decided to raise today because we think everything goes very quickly in this market. In AI generally, but even in the learning industry. So when we started the project, it was 1.5 years ago. We decided to go and speak to the customer as soon as we can. So we spoke to about 200 HROs, vice president of learning, even head of sales, for example, VP sales people. We were trying to find what were their real challenges about upskilling and reskilling their team in the age of AI. And that's really how we craft the first bricks of Blify. And in April last year, in April 2025, we decided it was the right moment to start accelerating. And so we had some VCs on our network, and we decided to contact them and to say, okay, now we have an idea of the product. We have some design partners. We had 7 design partners at the start. We are co-building the product with them, and now we need money to accelerate, to gain some product surpasses and bring them and continue to bring them values. I think it was a great timing. And today, as I say, it's just the beginning. 2026 will be really important for us because we will continue to co-design the product and also hire a team to be more quick on the product. Well, it's just the start for us.
Yeah. So when you think about these funds, it sounds like you'll be focusing on products. So you're hiring some new developers.
Welcome to the Hire Her podcast, where women in talent call all the shots. We know, another recruiting podcast, just what the industry needs. Okay, but hear us out. You ever spend hours sourcing that perfect candidate, but they end up ghosting you harder than your Hinge date? Or finally, you get that hiring manager feedback, only for them to, of course, say, can we see more candidates? Lame, right? But let's talk about what's really lame in the industry. How is it that 65% of recruiters are brilliant women, yet most of the decision makers look like a convention for middle-aged dudes named Brad?
That's where we come in. Hire Her isn't just another podcast about hiring trends you already heard like 50 times this week. We're here to elevate women in talent, share their career journeys, and make sure they take the lead. Because let's face it, if recruiting is the backbone of every company, why are we still fighting for a seat at the table? So whether you're a recruiter, a talent leader, or just someone trying to swim through the sausage fest of TA leadership, we got you, girl. Welcome to Hire Her, the recruiting podcast where women's voices aren't just heard, but they're leading the conversation.
So subscribe now, because middle management Brad sure as hell isn't going to do it for you.
Any go-to-market initiatives, or are you still focused on product at this point?
Well, today it's this learning is mainly all about expanding our core engineering team and scaling our technology. So we can handle complex and company-wide rollout, because we have approximately 10 customers here now in France, about 10 in Europe more, and about 10 in other countries. And today we want to bring the most value we can to them. And we are starting our go-to-market, but we are not pushing, on the button of growth today. We wait a little bit. We want to be more prepared on the product side. We want to be sure that we can bring as much value as we can. So today it's more focused on product. This is, as I say, it's a pre-seed round. The pre-seed goal is to get a product market fit and be more sure about this product market fit. So even if we have clients, we want to find how we can get more clients more quickly. So to do that, we need to stay focused on the product and see and elevate the value.
Right. It's a great answer. I talked to so many founders at early stage, very early stage. The world has changed in the last 5 years, where while you're talking about product, I'm also hearing momentum, in the sense that you've got your partners today. You're talking about 10 and 10, France, Europe, other countries. That's 30 enterprises. That's momentum. I always refer to it as at the super early stage. Let's say, looking at you maybe 9 months ago, it's sign of life, right? It's adoption, interest. It may or may not have revenue attached to it at an early stage. But 5 years ago, the idea and the business plan, in many cases drove that early stage investment. But today, things are moving so fast that momentum is expected. So yeah, that was such a great answer. Listen, see how product relates to momentum.
Yes, sure. And we didn't raise money on the tool. We raised money on our vision, and our vision is to be the pioneer of a new wave of learning software. I used to say that there were two waves of learning software. There was the first wave in the at the start of the millennium, with tools like Saba or Cornerstone. It was the first digitalization of how we manage training. Then there was a second wave in the 2010s with Docebo, 360 Learning, and so on, bringing what the software as a service can and Web 2 can. And the cloud, all the cloud space. So it's all about collaborative. It's all about ubiquity of learning. And now, with AI in the past 3 years, I think it's a new chapter for learning, and we definitely want to be one of the players who are leading this new wave. So it's all about this new wave. It's not just fundraiser for just a tool, a feature. No, it's how we brings value in this new world.
Yeah, that's great. As we've got a few minutes left, and I'm wondering, for anybody that's listening, from a customer profile perspective, is there, and at this stage it could be attributes of a company, or it may be their industry, or what does an ideal prospective customer or partner for you look like today?
Yes, today we build Blify to be global from day one, but our sweet spot is really mid-market. What calls companies that are operating globally. They're fast-moving organization. They need to continuously upskill, reskill their teams without disrupting their daily operations. And we are seeing great traction with companies like that. Companies with distributed workforce, such as Clément, for example, the hospitality company, so-called hospitality company in France, Kaufman, which is a big company in France. They're great examples because they have people everywhere in the world, and they need and they have centralized learning in France, and they want to bring it everywhere in the world. So they use our WhatsApp and team integrations to train their employees across multiple countries, and this seamlessly. So I think this is the kind of companies that are our ideal customer profile, as we say in WhatsApp.
That's great. Anything about the vision, the roadmap, or the product where you're headed that I didn't ask you that you'd like to share? Anything there?
Well, short term, as I said, it's all about product and continue to deliver maximum value to our customers. And long term, I would say over the next 3 to 5 years, our vision is to make the destination LMS entirely obsolete. We want to establish Blify as the definitive learning layer of the company. What we want, and our mission is really to bring a tool for learning in companies that don't replace people. We want to make use AI to empower every single employee to be like a super worker. And this is our mission. And I think we will have a huge success, in my opinion, if we succeed in that specific mission in 5 years.
Yeah. Well, that's a very it's a big market that you're focused on with a lot of opportunity. There's a lot of improvement to be made there for sure. That's why you're here. So hey, congrats to Blify. On the round, it's not easy to raise right now, so that itself is a big accomplishment. Where can folks go to learn more about you?
Well, we do have a website called
I have to ask.
So it's blify.co and not .com, but .co. But you can also reach me on LinkedIn if you want. Happy to talk.
All right, perfect. And that will all be in the show notes. And I want to thank you for your time. I know how busy you are, and congratulations to you and the team again. And thanks for being here.
Thank you to you, George. See you.
All right, take care. Thanks, everybody, wherever you're watching or listening on the Work Defined Podcast Network. And until next time.